really want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you. This is a very critical day. Every single day, we use products, services. You can imagine, if you don't have the real, your life is on the line.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. The university had an opportunity to undertake a research on behalf of the Anti-Counterfeit Authority, and there were two levels of research. The first one was at farm level, so meaning that we are focusing on corporates, manufacturers specifically, and the second one was focusing on the consumers. I will take the first part where we look at the research findings from on the levels of awareness and extent of counterfeiting in Kenya, specifically at the farm level. Now, the background is basically appreciating where we have, next slide please, where we are as a country within the global space, that indeed the counterfeit is becoming, is actually the fastest growing illicit industry amongst other illicit industries. And what this does is that it provides, or it gives a threat to our manufacturing sector in the country within the global space. We'll find that the manufacturing sector in Kenya trails, when you compare it, its contribution to GDP trails when you compare it with other countries in the sub-Saharan Africa. So while our manufacturing sector, based on the National Bureau of Statistics records, in 2023, that's contributed 7.6% of the GDP. On average, in sub-Saharan Africa, manufacturing sector is contributing 10.4, indicating that indeed our manufacturing sector is trailing. And 30% of the manufacturers in a baseline survey that was done by the Anti-Counterfeit Authority in 2021, 30% of the manufacturers indicated that indeed they are aware that there are counterfeits within their industry, or basically their products are being counterfeited. So it was the basis of this background that we're able now to build on that, to look at what is the current situation. And the objectives, next slide please. The objectives of the survey was, we had 4 objectives. The first one, we were asking ourselves, are we able to establish the extent to which the farms sell products online? The reason for this focus is basically the appreciation of the shift of the delivery of goods and services from the physical presence or to the digital space. So with the digital economy eventually continually expanding, the first objective was to establish the extent to which the farm sells their products online. The second objective was to determine the level, trends, and impact of the counterfeiting in the industry. So what is the level? What is the trend? And what impact does this have within the industry? The third one is to establish the channels through which the counterfeiters are able to sell their goods, and the most counterfeited goods for that matter. And then finally, to look at the challenges that are faced by the industry and the strategies to address this challenge. Now, our focus was on 4 main sectors that were purposefully selected based on, 1, the critical importance they hold to the economy, and number 2, informed by the baseline survey of 2021 as the sectors that are under threat and pose significant human and economic risk. And therefore, the 4 sectors that we focused on are automotive spare parts, the pharmaceutical and medical equipments, the energy, electronics and electricals, and alcoholic beverages. We were able to get that, specifically use the firms that are registered by the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and as per the time of this survey, there were 190 members registered in those 4 sectors, registered with Kenya Association of Manufacturers. So we therefore endeavored to do a census of those firms. Next slide, please. And we collected data using 2 means. The first one, which was the primary means, was in-person visits. So we visited each and every of these farms, sought permission, and were able to have an interview with the knowledgeable staff, and therefore in the process filled the instrument. Where we were not able to get the appointments, then we went for telephone interviews. And we employed a computer-assisted personal interview tool that is called Colo Toolbox. We also undertook the key informant interviews because we had employed a mixed method research. And in the process, then for the key informant interviews, we used Zoom meetings, recording, and transcription thereof. But of course, as usual, when you're doing our research, we had to get the license. So we got the license from the NACOSTI. And before we did implement the tool, we tested with 19 farms. We tested the tool. We piloted the tool with 19 farms from the chemical and allied sector. So what did we cite? What did we find? Now, there are four diagrams there. The first one is basically just indicating the success rate. So meaning that while we were intending to achieve 190 farms, then we ended up with an 82% success rate, specifically translating to 136 farms. Those are the ones we were able to correct data from. And the second figure 2 is an illustration of where these sectors or where these farms, in which sector are they. And we appreciate that, of course, it is again appreciating that the sample is not equal across all the sectors, but appreciating that the biggest participants in this survey were the automotive spare parts at 34%, and the alcoholic beverages, and the second one was electronics, energy electronics, and then followed by pharmaceuticals, and then alcoholic beverages. But what were the size of the farms that we were able to do within this sector? So the figure number 3 is the size of the farm, and the largest is the small at 35.9. Those are the small farms, that is between 0 and 49 employees. But we had also a good representation for the medium-sized farms, that is 50 to 99 employees, and 16% of farms that were had more than 100 employees or more. And then, of course, when you look at what is the ownership of those particular farms that participated, majority were locally owned, 85.9. Then we go now to the first objective. We wanted to find out to what extent do these farms in these 4 sectors sell their products online. And what is evident, if you look at that diagram, to the left, the blue line or the blue shape, the blue color indicates the farms that do not sell goods online. So when you look at the right one, that is the green bar, is indicating that, of course, we have the automotive spare part leading for 47%, and then we have the least sector that sells their goods online is basically the pharmaceutical and medical equipment. Of course, appreciating the regulatory aggressiveness and therefore restricting the online sales in the pharmaceutical and medical equipment sector. But when you look at the automotive, then it happens to be the highest that we are having the sourcing of these items, generally sales from through the online channel. That diagram is called a heat map. A heat map. A heat map. Here we were trying to compare 2 things. One is the industry. So we have the automotive spare parts, the pharmaceuticals. Those are the lows. But then the columns is because we gave them an instrument, or we are getting to indicate, kindly indicate to us to what extent or what percentage of the sales that you do online is affected by counterfeits. So what extent of the goods that you sell online is affected by counterfeiting? And the darkest line, the darkest color is the bottom, the first quadrant there that has 69%, meaning that when you look at the alcoholic beverages, at least a small amount, of the goods sold online are affected by the counterfeit. And you'll realize as you go up the sectors, energy, electronics, the color becomes much, much lighter, indicating that the extent of lower level reduces, and therefore means that the more of the products or a bigger percentage of the products get affected by the counterfeits. So the next question we asked, where are these counterfeits coming from? Are they local or are they foreign? What is the source? And appreciating that the green bar on top is the local industry, so it's evident that we still have significant part, especially for alcoholic beverages, significant part of the products that are sold online and they are counterfeit, generated from the local manufacturers. And the one that has the least local, of course, is the automotive, because we appreciate that most of these products ordinarily would be coming from the foreign markets. So that's what we were about. So that gives us an insight of where the source is. So evidently, green bar dominates, meaning that we still have significant part of these counterfeits being produced locally.
I take this opportunity to say that it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to the commemoration of this year's World Anti-Counterfeit Day, which is being held under the theme, Advancing Counterfeiting Efforts to Foster Innovation and Consumer Trust. This theme is not just a slogan, it is a national and a global call to action. A rallying call that speaks directly to the integrity of our economy, the safety of our people, and the future of the innovation in Kenya and beyond. We are gathered here today not out of routine, but out of urgency and purpose. The global counterfeit economy is now valued at over 500 billion USD. In Kenya alone, we are losing an estimated 153 billion Kenya shillings across critical sectors such as health, agriculture, construction, and electronics. Counterfeiting is not just a theft. It is a public health crisis, a barrier to industrial growth, and a direct threat to investor confidence. World Counterfeit Day is commemorated to raise awareness about the dangers of counterfeit goods and promote coordinated global efforts to protect consumers, the innovation, and legitimate businesses. This year's observance is even more symbolic as we mark 15 years since the establishment of Anti-Counterfeit Authority. Over this period, the ACA has evolved from a startup enforcement agency, and now we are in our teen years. And you know how teens behave. Can you clap for ACA for marking this? And when we started in 2010, we were required to do a number of things. And the essence of starting this agency started around 2004, 2005, where there was a case by Doshi ironmongers versus weight and measures. And what the High Court said, that there could be no crime without law. And so the government was taken back to the drawing board, that you cannot enforce counterfeiting in Kenya without establishing an enabling law. And as a result of that, Kenya's Association of Manufacturers, among other private players, did come together and boarded together and were able to petition the then president, Honorable Moi Kibaki, and they enacted an act of parliament, that is Anti-Counterfeit Act of 2008. Allow me to say that World Anti-Counterfeit Day 2025 is not just another event in the calendar. It is our Kairos moment. And this Kairos moment, that I think, Tom, you are the one who is bringing this issue of Kairos moment once again. In Greek mythology, we have two concepts of time. They have what they call Kairos, or optune. Actually, the word optune comes from the same concept. And the other one is called chronos, like chronicles, chronology, meaning that you are given two concepts of time. It is up to you as an individual to know when is the right time to do something. Kairos only comes once. And once Kairos goes, you're never going to recover it. And here we are, we have our Kairos moment, which measures the passage of time, that is chronos. Our Kairos moment signals the right time, the opportune moment, when bold choices must be made and legacies are shaped. This is the moment for Kenya and the world. I'm also going to refer you to that phrase within the Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. The way that he says Brutus and Mark Antony, that those times that come, the tides. And if you are unable to realize the moment when the right tide comes, once it goes, you are not going to recover again. With the reforms otherwise, the name Anti-Counterfeit Authority, Kipi and Kekobo may soon fade into the dustbin of history. But what will endure is a unified vision they helped forge, a streamlined, modern, and responsive IP systems that fit for a knowledge-driven economy. That is the side of story and history that we would like to propel forward as our legacy. To our international guests, karibu to Kenya, and return soon. Enjoy our culture, our world drive, our night and day life, and become a goodwill ambassador of Kenya's IP journey. Thank you, and may God bless all of you as we celebrate this day. Asanteni.
So with that, let me start by saying that it's a real pleasure and honor to be here at this memorable, beautiful occasion with the host, Dr. Robbie Joroge, ED of ACA, our dear chair, Mr. Alan Kosgei, not just a lawyer but a dancer as well, of DP, CEO John Yango, old friend of mine, our colleagues as well from MINTI, Dr. Joseph Deva. You are also an IP person because you were Chief Patent Examiner at KP for many years before you crossed over to ministry. Thank you for being part of the IP community. I also wish to acknowledge our friends from Kekobo, the Bureau of Standards. It really is an ecosystem of IP in this room, and my honor to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Jambo. Habarizeno. First, let me acknowledge the 15th anniversary of ACA, which I think is very significant. And I thank you all for being here with me today, here with us today, despite this being a public holiday, maybe just to give the opportunity to our friends who are following the Muslim faith, just greetings, Eid Mubarak. Now, one of the most meaningful parts of my work as the Director General of the World Intellectual Property Organization that serves the 193 countries of the UN is to engage with those who are innovating and creating at the grassroots level. And I was very pleased that during this official visit to Kenya, I had the chance to do that. First, yesterday at the Kenya Startup Festival, organized by Kenya, and then this morning at Kurdi, where I had a chance to meet many young and also not so young innovators, inventors, and creators. And in my conversations with many of these Kenyans who are driving solutions in agri-tech, fintech, blue economy, orange economy, musicians and creators, I found that they're all trying to solve different problems in the world, different problems in Kenya, but united by an energy, ambition, and purpose. And I'm fully confident that given the right conditions, they will succeed. And in fact, WIPO is pledging to support them not just to protect the IP, but also to commercialize the IP, because IP must become part of their business strategy to allow them to bring their ideas to the market. So I'm very confident that they will succeed. But there's a problem here. All too often, business success comes at a price. It attracts free riders. And just as some entrepreneurs hustle, make the difficult journey to bring their ideas to the market, others take a shortcut, stealing their ideas and selling counterfeit goods, pirating the content. And this poses a serious threat to Kenya's economic security, public safety, and indeed even your innovation and creative ecosystem. A number of speakers have termed this as economic terrorism, and I totally agree with that. And let me share some facets of the challenges involved to make this even more concrete. First, economic security and opportunity. ACA estimates that the value of illicit trade in Kenya is about 800 billion shillings, or about almost 10% of the GDP. And this impact is widespread and deeply felt. National Treasury loses over 150 billion shillings in tax revenue to counterfeits each year. And this is money that could fund public services, infrastructure, economic development, schools that the girls came from that did such a wonderful performance this morning. But the impact is at the individual level too. Chairman Koske, you mentioned about jobs. Counterfeiting costs an estimate of 44,000 Kenyan jobs each year. That's 44,000 jobs a year. And this also undermines investor confidence, undermines the economic growth. Second, public safety. And I think Director Mbeba spoke about many of the challenges, electrical wiring. Gone are the days when counterfeits were largely about consumer products like our luxury goods like fake handbags, fake sneakers. Today, transnational organized crime, traffic in counterfeit medicine, cosmetics, agricultural inputs, fertilizers, and even food. These items do not meet safety standards, they do not pass basic quality checks, they are not really dangerous, they can be deadly. WIPO has seen examples of fake airbags. So these airbags are fake, so when we get involved in an accident, they deploy in a way that kills the passenger that these airbags are supposed to protect. This is just one example. And in sub-Saharan Africa, fake medicines are estimated to account for nearly 500,000 deaths each year. So this is deadly. Third, impact on innovation. I have seen for myself Kenya's rise as a startup nation, the vibrancy of your creative economy, the ambition of Kenya to push your micro, small, medium enterprises, the Juakali sector, alongside the other sectors to use IB to grow. But fake goods and frauds undermine this progress. In Europe, studies conducted by the European authorities show that MSMEs that are hit by IP infringement are 1/3 less likely to survive. And this is, I'm sure, very similar in other parts of the world, including here in Africa. And so while this World Anti-Counterfeiting Day, let's not forget the impact of piracy, the evil twin of counterfeiting and its impact on our creators. I was struck by the story of Kenyan comedian Jugush, who invested heavily in a stand-up show, only to see it pirated online before he could even share it on his own platforms and channels. And while, of course, he's a successful comedian, he's built a strong following, he's got millions of people who follow him across social media, and therefore he enjoys a certain business resilience. Imagine the impact on someone who's just starting out or less popular. Such a person may not even survive such a blow. And as the creative sector contributes 5% of Kenya's GDP, this has deep and detrimental impact on Kenya's creators and its creative economy as well. And I say this as a musician, or as a recovering musician, and I think this has an impact not just on the creative economy, but on Kenya's culture as well at the same time. And that's why I'm so pleased that Kenya is committing to combating IP crime. And as both your Anti-Counterfeit Act and the ACA mature, and I'm very pleased to hear that there will be some structural reforms to bring all under one roof, you'll all be contributing to Kenya's IP ecosystem with a clear vision and mandate, and even more ability to work across. It's also good to see that you have a focus on international cooperation and digital enforcement. The fact that 30% of Kenyan counterfeit transactions now take place online, and the same happens all over the world by the way, reinforces just how vigilant we must be to new and evolving forms of illicit trade. Kenya will not walk this path alone, but together with the World Intellectual Property Organization. Last year, we are very pleased to have partnered with the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry to support the second International Symposium on IP protection and enforcement here in Nairobi. And I'm very pleased to share that we are now in active discussions with KIPI to launch a sub-regional initiative for law enforcement officials to train prosecutors, police officers, and customs officials here in Kenya. And all these efforts were built on WIPO's broader work in the area of IP enforcement. Last year, we trained thousands of law enforcement officials all over the world, but we also added thousands of IP infringing websites to WIPO Alert, which is our global database of already 25,000 copyright infringing websites. We have a standing invitation for more countries to join WIPO Alert, and we welcome the day when Kenya will join us and add to our anti-piracy efforts on WIPO Alert. We're also going to advance two new enforcement tools, WIPO Alert Pay, where we'll work with financial institutions to cut off sources of funding and financing to online counterfeit goods and subscription-based piracy sites. And WIPO CRIS, which is a sophisticated customs recognition system to bolster enforcement at borders. Next year, we also pilot the first global forum for IP prosecutors, where best practices, case studies, and tools can be shared amongst the global community of IP prosecutors. And we hope that Kenya will join us as well.
I'm Jumbo. Let me start by saying that it's a pleasure and honor to be here in Kenya for the first time as the WIPO Director General. WIPO is the Global Agency for Intellectual Property, and we are here to visit Kenya because Kenya is emerging as an innovation engine of Africa and of the Global South. And of course, today I'm celebrating the 15th anniversary of the ACA, the Anti-Counterfeiting Agency. I'm here with Dr. Roby and many others in the IP system. Intellectual property is not just a technical, legal matter only for experts, but it's become an important catalyst to help entrepreneurs, innovators, Kenyan startups to bring their ideas to the market. And so in my speech today to all of the community here, I emphasize that helping these startups to protect their ideas, and as they commercialize their ideas, to be able to do that successfully is very important for the future growth of the Kenyan economy. And also more fundamentally, what we're seeing is that fake products are causing a lot of problems in Africa and beyond. For example, fake medicines kill 500,000 people in sub-Saharan Africa every year. So it's no longer just an issue of luxury products, fakes, but also talking about medicines, agricultural products, things that go down to the ground. And of course, I think most fundamentally, our mindset towards IP and innovation needs to change. We need to respect our own innovators and creators. And here in Kenya, you've seen so many wonderful, amazing innovations. And we need to make sure that these people are supported, respected. So it's not just about outsiders coming in, but also homegrown innovations going to the world. We need to make sure that the IP is protected. WIPO is fully committed to working with the Kenyan government, with ACA and many others to make sure that Kenyan innovators don't just protect their IP, but also are able to commercialize their IP. Thank you very much. Asante sana.